Rain has a way of cleaning everything except the past. That night it fell hard, thick drops striking the city until the streets turned into mirrors. Traffic blurred into streaks of red and gold, and the world seemed slower, quieter, waiting for something. Ethan Cole wasn't supposed to be there. He'd left work late from a repair shop on the edge of town, hands still smelling of oil and iron. His daughter was asleep at home, tucked in with her favorite drawing pinned beside her bed, a crayon heart labeled "Daddy's My Hero." That thought always made him drive slower, safer, and that's when he saw it. A flash of movement, a screech of tires, then the sound of impact. Brutal, final, wrong. A white ambulance, the kind meant to save lives, swerved wildly across the intersection, clipped a streetlight, and tore down the opposite lane before vanishing into the rain. In the middle of the road lay a crumpled shape. Ethan slammed the brakes and jumped out, boots splashing through the flood. Rain poured over everything, washing the color from the night, except for her. The woman lay near the curb, motionless. Her car, a black sedan, idled a few feet away, headlights flickering weakly. Steam rose from the hood. Glass glimmered on the wet asphalt like shattered stars. He knelt beside her. "Hey, can you hear me?" No answer, just shallow breaths, the kind that meant she was fighting. Her pulse was weak but there. He looked up the road. The ambulance was gone. Whoever had hit her had run. Ethan unzipped his jacket, covered her face to shield from the rain, and pressed his hand gently against her shoulder to keep her still. He'd done this before, a lifetime ago in uniform, in another storm. "Stay with me," he said quietly. "Help's coming." But there was no siren, not yet. Only rain, only silence, only the faint hum of her car's engine still running. He grabbed his phone with trembling fingers, dialed emergency dispatch, and gave them his location. When he turned back, her eyes were open, glazed, frightened. "Well, what happened?" she whispered. "You were hit. Don't move. You're okay now." Her lips trembled. "Who are you?" He met her eyes, steady, gentle. "Just someone who stopped." Her tears mixed with rain. "Why help me?" He swallowed, looked at the ground, then back at her. "Because someone once helped me." The ambulance came 15 minutes later. A different one. He followed behind in his truck, heart still racing, windshield fogged with breath. He didn't even realize until he parked outside the hospital that his hands were shaking. Inside, everything was white and fluorescent, too bright for a night like this. They rushed her past him through sliding glass doors. The woman he'd carried from the road. "Sir, are you family?" a nurse asked. He shook his head. "No, just found her." "Then please wait here." So he did. An hour passed, then two. He sat in a hallway chair, drenched clothes dripping onto the tile, staring at the floor. He didn't know her name, didn't know why he couldn't just go home. But something kept him there, the same quiet force that had made him stop in the first place. When the doctor finally came out, he spoke fast and low. "She's stable. Multiple fractures, mild concussion, some internal bruising, but she'll make it. You probably saved her life." Ethan nodded but didn't feel like a hero. He hadn't for years. The last person he'd tried to save hadn't made it. That was his wife. 3 years ago, a drunk driver, a different night, the same sound of metal and rain. That night had ended with silence. This one hadn't. He told himself he'd leave once the doctors confirmed she'd be okay. But he stayed. And somewhere between midnight and dawn, he dozed off in the waiting room chair. A nurse woke him gently. "Sir, she's asking for you." He blinked, groggy. "Me?" "Yes, the man who brought her in." He followed her to the room. Slow steps, unsure steps. The woman lay there under soft light, connected to machines that beeped like lullabies. Her voice was faint. "You came back." "I never left," he said. "I remember the rain, the lights, and your voice." He smiled slightly. "You were lucky." "I don't believe in luck," she whispered. "I believe in people showing up." Her eyes searched his face, quiet, curious. "What's your name?" "Ethan." "Ethan, thank you." He shook his head. "Don't. Just get better." But before he turned to leave, she said softly, "You saved me." He stopped in the doorway. "No," he said quietly. "You saved me from leaving someone behind again." The next morning, her name was on the news. Ayla Reeves, billionaire philanthropist, CEO of the Reeves Group, hospitalized after a hit-and-run by a city ambulance. Reporters crowded outside the hospital entrance. Ethan saw his truck reflected in their camera lenses as he pulled away, unseen. At home, his daughter Lily ran to him, half asleep. "Daddy, you're late." "I know, sweetheart. I had to help someone." She hugged his leg. "You always help people." He smiled and tired, genuine. "Sometimes the world gives you the chance." He tucked her back into bed, then sat by the window watching the rain ease off. He didn't know if he'd ever see Ayla again, but somewhere deep down, he felt that the story wasn't finished, that fate hadn't wasted a storm for nothing. Across town in a quiet hospital room, Ayla lay awake staring at the ceiling. Rain still whispered outside the glass. She thought about the man who'd stopped, the way he'd said those words, "Because someone once helped me." It echoed over and over in the silence between heartbeats. She didn't know why it mattered so much, but she made herself a promise. She'd find him. Not because she owed him, but because something in his voice sounded like truth. And the truth was something money had never been able to buy. 2 weeks after the accident, the city had already moved on. The headlines faded, the outrage cooled, and the rain stopped pretending to wash guilt away. But not for Ayla Reeves. She returned to her company's glass tower with her arm in a sling and her steps slow, deliberate. Every camera flash felt like lightning. Every reporter's question sounded like thunder. "How are you feeling, Miss Reeves? When will you return to full work capacity? Any statement about the driver?" She gave the same answer to all of them. "I'm grateful to be alive." What she didn't say was that she kept hearing his voice, the man from the road, echoing in her head, "Because someone once helped me." She'd said it to herself so many times it had become like a prayer she didn't understand. He hadn't given her his number, not even a last name, just Ethan, and a quiet look that made her feel, for the first time in years, seen. Not as a CEO, not as a headline, but as a human being lying broken on wet asphalt. So she sent someone to find him. Her assistant returned the next morning with a name, an address, and a puzzled expression. "Ethan Cole," she said. "Single father, former paramedic, runs a small repair shop on the South End. No criminal record, no debts, nothing unusual. Except he refused the hospital's compensation." Ayla frowned. "Refused?" "Yes," said, quote, "She owes me nothing." The words hit her harder than the accident. Owes me nothing. Nobody in her world ever said that. That afternoon, without telling anyone, she drove across the city to the south side. No cameras, no driver, just her and the sound of the engine beneath the slow rhythm of traffic. The road narrowed, the glass towers gave way to brick and dust, and she found herself outside a modest garage with an old hand-painted sign, Cole's Auto Service. Reliable repairs, fair prices. The place looked small, worn, but alive. Inside, music played faintly from a radio, the kind that crackles between songs. Tools hung neatly from the wall. And there he was. Ethan stood by a lifted car, sleeves rolled up, hands streaked with grease. He looked up when the door chimed. For a second, neither spoke. Then he smiled faintly. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I wasn't sure I'd find you," she said softly. "Wasn't hiding." "I know. That's probably what made it harder." He wiped his hands on a rag, walked closer. "How's the shoulder?" "Healing. Doctors say I'll be fine." "Good, you took a nasty hit." She nodded, glancing around the shop. "You fixed this place up yourself?" "Yeah, keeps me busy. Fixing things helps." She hesitated. "You were a paramedic." He paused just slightly. "Was. What happened?" He looked away. "Life. Same thing that happens to everyone. You lose something. You build something smaller around the empty space." Her eyes softened. "And your daughter?" He smiled then. Genuine, unguarded. "Lily, she's 9. Smarter than me and twice as stubborn." Ayla's lips curved faintly. She must be proud of her father. He chuckled quietly. She thinks I'm a superhero. I let her believe it. There was silence for a moment. Comfortable, gentle. The kind that happens when two lives quietly recognize each other's weight. Ayla looked around. Do you ever fix cars that don't belong to customers? He tilted his head. You mean yours? She smiled. It's been making a strange noise since the accident. I figured the man who saved me could be trusted with a few loose bolts. He nodded once. Leave it here. I'll take care of it. She turned to leave, then stopped. Ethan? Yeah? Thank you for stopping that night. He met her eyes. You would have done the same. No, she said softly. I wouldn't have. Over the next few weeks, Ayla found excuses to return, to check on the car, to drop off coffee, to ask about repairs that didn't really need answers. Each time she stayed a little longer, she started to notice small things. The way he talked to his daughter, how he'd smile when the radio played old songs, how the whole place smelled of oil, rain, and hope. It was a world without boardrooms or masks. One day she caught Lily sitting on the floor, sketching in colored pencils. What are you drawing? Ayla asked. A car that can fly, Lily said proudly. So Daddy never has to get stuck in traffic. Ayla laughed. A real laugh, not the polite kind she used in meetings. That's clever, Lily beamed. You're the lady from the hospital, right? Yes. Daddy said you were brave. Ayla blinked. He said that? Uh-huh. He said some people don't need saving, they just need someone to remind them to live again. Ayla felt her chest tighten. She looked toward Ethan, who pretended not to notice. That evening, the three of them shared pizza from a cardboard box on the workbench. It wasn't planned. It just happened, like rain deciding when to fall. Lily told stories about school. Ayla listened. Ethan fixed a clock on the wall while the other two laughed at something silly. It was simple, too simple for a world like hers. And yet she didn't want it to end. As days turned into weeks, Ayla found herself at the garage even when her car didn't need fixing. She told herself she was helping the community, donating parts, funding upgrades, but deep down she knew better. She was drawn to the quiet strength that had pulled her out of that rain, the kind of man who didn't ask for anything, but gave everything anyway. The board at her company noticed her distraction. Her assistant whispered that the media had spotted her outside a repair shop. Not good optics, they said, but she didn't care. When you've almost died, optics lose their power. One evening after Lily had gone to bed, Ayla stayed behind. The rain had returned, softer this time, tapping on the windows. Ethan was cleaning his tools. You know, she said, when I woke up in that hospital, I thought the world had stopped. My company, my money, my plans, none of it mattered. All I could think about was your voice. He smiled faintly. It was a rough night. You probably just remember what was loudest. She shook her head. No, it was quiet. That's what I remember. The world was falling apart and you were calm. He paused. You don't forget the rain once you've almost drowned in it. Their eyes met, steady, unguarded. Something unspoken passed between them. She stepped closer. Ethan, why did you stop that night? Really? He hesitated, then looked down. Because years ago, someone stopped for me, and I didn't get the chance to tell her thank you. Ayla's voice trembled. Your wife? He nodded slowly. She didn't make it, but her kindness did. She exhaled softly. I'm sorry. Don't be, he said. Just make sure her kindness doesn't die twice. Outside, thunder rolled again. The rain grew heavier, streaking the windows with gold from the streetlights. Ayla stood there, heart pounding with something that wasn't fear this time. I don't know what this is, Ethan, she said quietly, but it feels like the only thing that makes sense. He looked at her, tired and kind. It's just life starting again. And somewhere between the thunder and silence, that's exactly what it did. The city was finally quiet again. Weeks had passed since the rain, but Ayla still carried its sound in her memory. The way it hit the glass, the way it softened his voice, those were the details that refused to fade. Every morning she drove past his garage on the way to work. Sometimes she'd stop, sometimes she'd just slow down, pretending to check her phone. Each time she saw the lights on, she felt the same strange calm she couldn't explain. Ethan had become part of her new rhythm, the only part that felt like it still belonged to something human, but the world she lived in had a way of breaking what it didn't understand. It started one Thursday afternoon with a single phone call. Ethan was under a car, radio humming softly, grease on his knuckles. The voice on the other end was official, clipped, familiar. "This is Captain Rhodes with City EMS. We need you to testify in an old case. The drunk driver you reported 3 years ago, he's appealing his sentence." Ethan froze. He hadn't heard that voice in years. He didn't even realize his hands had started shaking until the wrench slipped from his grip and hit the concrete floor. He took a deep breath, forcing his voice steady. "I'm out, Captain. I told you that." "I know," the man said gently, "but you're the only living witness. If you don't testify, he walks free." Ethan hung up without answering. Ayla arrived at the shop that evening carrying coffee. She noticed immediately the silence, the tension in his shoulders, the way he didn't look up when she entered. "What happened?" she asked quietly. He didn't answer right away. When he finally did, his voice was low. "The past. It doesn't stay buried for long." He told her everything. The night his wife died. The drunk driver, the guilt that had lived inside his ribs ever since. "I was a paramedic," he said. "We were coming home from Lily's birthday. A man crossed the divider drunk. I was the one who pulled her out, but I couldn't save her." Ayla's throat tightened. "You tried." He nodded slowly. "And it failed. That's why I stopped working in the field. I couldn't walk into another crash knowing I might have to see that again." She stepped closer. "You did save someone, Ethan." "Me?" He gave a faint, broken smile. "Maybe I was trying to save her one more time through you." The next day, the story broke. Someone had leaked a photograph. Ayla Reeves, Billionaire CEO, laughing in a small-town repair shop with a man covered in oil and dust. The caption was cruel. "From boardroom to back alley, who's the mystery mechanic?" By evening, the headlines were everywhere. Her PR team called. Her board panicked. Her assistant whispered words like reputation, optics, damage control. Ayla didn't care. She drove to the garage that night. When she arrived, the lights were off. A note taped to the door read, "Closed until further notice." Her chest tightened. She called his number. No answer. So she did what she always did when the world felt too loud. She drove. No destination, just the open road, the sound of rain starting again, her thoughts chasing her like headlights in the rear view. Then she saw him, standing on the same bridge where it had all begun. Coat soaked, hands on the railing, staring at the water below. She pulled over, stepped into the rain, walked toward him. "Ethan," he didn't turn. "You should be home." "I don't care what they say," she said. "It's not about them." His voice cracked. "You don't belong in my world." She shook her head. "Maybe I don't, but I belong where I was saved." That made him turn. The rain was relentless now, tracing lines across his face. "You don't understand what this costs," he said quietly. "My past isn't something you build empires on." "I'm not here for an empire," she whispered. "I'm here because you're the only part of my life that isn't built on pretending." He looked away, the river's reflection shimmering across his eyes. "Every time I close mine," he said softly, "I see her, my wife, the moment I lost her. I thought helping you might undo it somehow, but it doesn't. It just hurts less when I'm near you." Ayla stepped forward. "Then don't run from what makes it hurt less." He exhaled a long, trembling breath. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," she said, "but I'll regret silence more." And for a long moment, neither of them moved. The storm raged around them, the city lights bleeding into the rain, and two broken souls stood facing each other in the downpour. Not as savior and saved, but as equals in pain. The next morning, Ayla's assistant stormed into her office. "Ma'am, the board is calling for an emergency meeting. They think your relationship with Mr. Cole is a liability." Ayla stood at the window looking out over the skyline. Rain was still falling, washing the glass in silver lines. She said softly, "Let them think what they want." Her assistant hesitated. They'll push you out if you don't handle this carefully. Ayla turned. I've been handling things carefully my whole life, and it's made me miserable. She walked out, leaving the room in stunned silence. That evening, she went back to the garage. Ethan was there again, cleaning tools in silence. They're talking about us, she said. He nodded. Let them. You don't care? I care, he said softly, but not about noise. I've lived through louder things. She took a slow breath. Then let's make them see what they can't understand. He frowned. Which is? That kindness isn't weakness. That pain can build something stronger than pride. He smiled for the first time that night. You sound like my daughter. Ayla laughed softly. Maybe she's smarter than both of us. The next few days were quieter. Reporters lost interest. The world moved on again, as it always does. But something between them had changed. Their silences grew longer. Not uncomfortable, just deeper. She'd help him in the shop, hand him tools, sometimes just sit and listen to the hum of machines and the sound of Lily's laughter upstairs. At night, she'd drive home through the same bridge where it had all started, watching the city lights reflect on the wet road, whispering to herself, because someone once helped me. One evening, Lily brought out a folded piece of paper. I made something for you, she told Ayla shyly. It was a drawing, 3 stick figures under an umbrella, rain falling around them. Above them, in uneven handwriting, were the words, safe now. Ayla felt her throat tighten. That's beautiful, sweetheart. Lily grinned. Daddy says rain doesn't always mean sad. Sometimes it means starting over. Ayla looked at Ethan. He smiled quietly, as if that was all the closure he needed. But fate wasn't done with them yet. A week later, the court summoned Ethan again. He didn't tell Ayla until the night before. She found him sitting on the floor beside the window, papers spread around, his old paramedic badge glinting under the light. I have to go, he said. If I don't testify, that man walks free. She sat beside him. And if you do, I have to relive it all. Then don't go alone, she whispered. He looked at her, long, searching, and then nodded. Outside, thunder rolled again, distant and deep, the kind that didn't warn of a storm, but of an ending. The courtroom smelled of rain and old paper. Outside, the storm had returned. Not violent, not loud, just steady, like the city was holding its breath. Ethan sat on the witness bench, hands folded, eyes calm. Ayla sat behind him, her presence silent but strong. He hadn't wanted her to come, but she came anyway. She always did. The defense attorney spoke first, voice sharp, precise. Mr. Cole, you were an emergency responder the night your wife was killed, correct? Yes. And tonight, you're here to testify against the man responsible? Ethan's voice didn't shake. Yes. The lawyer circled, waiting for weakness. Why testify now, after 3 years? He looked at the man steadily. Because running from pain doesn't keep it from finding you. It just keeps you from healing. A murmur rippled through the room. Even the judge paused for a heartbeat longer before nodding for him to continue. Ethan told them everything. The night, the rain, the headlights, the sound of impact. His voice never cracked, though his eyes flickered once, when he spoke of holding her hand until it went cold. Then he said something that made the courtroom still. I stopped being a paramedic after that night. I told myself I was done saving people. But you can't outrun what you were meant to do. A few weeks ago, I saw another crash. Same rain, same lights. Only this time, I didn't walk away. I stopped. And someone lived because of it. That's why I'm here. Not for revenge, not for punishment, for peace. The defense didn't speak again. There was nothing left to challenge. When it was over, the driver, the man who had taken his wife, was found guilty. Justice wasn't victory, just silence where chaos had been. Outside the courthouse, the sky broke open with light rain, soft and forgiving. Ayla waited by the steps, umbrella in hand. Ethan walked toward her slowly, shoulders heavy but lighter than before. Is it over? She asked. He nodded. As much as it can be. She looked at him, really looked. And how do you feel? He thought for a moment. Like the rain finally hit the right place. She smiled softly. Then maybe that's what it was all for. He glanced up at the sky. I used to think storms were punishment. Now I think they're reminders that we're still here to feel them. In the weeks that followed, they saw each other more often, not because of what had happened, but because of what hadn't. No headlines, no cameras, no chaos. Just two people trying to rebuild something they hadn't planned for. Ayla's company moved forward without her for a while. She didn't fight it. She spent her days visiting local clinics, talking to victims of road accidents, funding a foundation in Ethan's name, the Cole Initiative. It offered free first aid training, non-driver rehabilitation, and trauma support. Ethan helped her design it. He didn't care about the name. He cared that people learned to stop when someone needed help. One evening, the foundation hosted its first community event, a small gathering in a converted hangar filled with folding chairs, volunteers, and families. Nothing grand, nothing expensive, just real. Ethan stood at the back, hands in pockets, watching Ayla speak. Her voice carried through the quiet room. Months ago, she said, I was hit by a drunk driver. I shouldn't have survived, but a stranger stopped in the rain, risked his life, and taught me something I'd forgotten. That we don't owe kindness an explanation. We just owe it forward. Applause echoed, soft and steady. Ethan's daughter, Lily, sat beside him, clapping proudly. Ayla smiled, catching his eye through the crowd. It was the kind of look that said everything without words. After the event, the three of them walked outside together. The night was calm, mist rising from the asphalt, puddles glimmering beneath streetlights. Lily skipped ahead, humming a tune, while Ayla and Ethan walked slower, side by side. She's happy, Ayla said quietly. She always finds a reason to be, Ethan replied. And you? He smiled faintly. I'm learning from her. Ayla stopped walking, turning toward him. You saved me, Ethan. He shook his head. You saved yourself. I just reminded you to breathe. She stepped closer. You always do. For a moment, the world felt still. No noise, no lightning, just the rhythm of falling rain and the warmth of something honest. He reached up, held the umbrella over both of them, and said softly, You know what Lily told me tonight? What? She said sometimes people aren't sent to stay forever. Sometimes they're sent to teach us how to stand in the rain without being afraid. Ayla smiled through tears. Then I guess you were sent to me. He looked at her, not with longing, not with sorrow, just with peace. Maybe we were sent to each other. Months later, the foundation grew faster than either expected. Ayla's company reinstated her, but she split her time, half in boardrooms, half in community centers. Ethan's garage became the program's training site. He hung a new sign above the door. Stop, help, hope. People came not to fix cars, but to learn how to fix moments, the ones where most just drive by. Then came the day everything came full circle. It was raining again, soft like memory, not chaos. Ayla's car broke down on the same stretch of road where it all began. She laughed at the irony and stepped out, rain falling against her coat. Within minutes, another vehicle slowed beside her. A stranger rolled down the window. You need help, ma'am? She smiled, umbrella half open. No, thank you. Someone's already on their way. She looked up the road just as Ethan's old truck came into view. Headlights cutting through the fog, steady and familiar. He parked behind her, stepped out, and grinned. Didn't think you'd let me return the favor this soon. I didn't plan it. Fate rarely asks for permission. They both laughed quietly. He knelt to check the tire, rain glistening on his jacket, and she held the umbrella above both of them. Steam rose from the asphalt. The air smelled like new beginnings. When he looked up, she was already watching him. There was gratitude in her eyes, yes, but something deeper too, something like peace. She spoke softly, almost to herself. Why help me? He tightened the lug nut, looked toward the sky, then back at her. Because someone once helped me. And as the rain eased, sunlight broke faintly through the clouds, spilling gold across the wet road, catching in their eyes like memory. Two people, one umbrella, one quiet answer that had carried them through the storm. The storm had taken everything from them once, but this time It had given something back. Not rescue, not romance, just reason. Reason to believe that no act of kindness ever truly ends. It only waits for its turn to return.